Good morning, and welcome to the All Together podcast. Today.Church is meeting this morning at Iron Skillet, and this podcast is to help you stay connected. If you can't be there all together, we actually start the All Together time with this podcast. Today.Church is anytime, anywhere, Jesus people gather, love first. Now today we're going to be continuing our study verse by verse through the book of James. Today we're talking about true and false wisdom. So we'll be reading from James 13 through 18. How do you know true wisdom? I mean, who has it? Well, wisdom isn't intelligence, and intelligence isn't wisdom. Wisdom isn't popularity or approval. You can have all the right information. Everyone can think you know it all and still not be wise. Wisdom is actually applying knowledge. And the only knowledge that will make you wise comes from God's Word. So today we're going to talk about identifying true wisdom, the dangers of false wisdom, and pursuing peace and righteousness. In our world today, where there is such a political divide and polarization on all sides, even among believers. I mean, we have denominations and we have all of these different belief systems pointing at each other. There's a lot of conflict, many economic and social issues that divide us. And so we really need to know what wisdom is. And so that's what we'll be studying today from James. Let's begin chapter 3, verse 13, reading today from the NET translation, where it says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, he should show his works done in the gentleness that wisdom brings." Who is wise? You may remember the old TV show, game show. Actually, it may still be on, I'm not sure, but Family Feud. And Richard Dawson, who was the host when I was a kid, would always say, "Survey says." Well, in our culture, views of wisdom are often influenced by popularity and fame, whatever the survey says, rather than gentleness and good conduct. We think celebrities are wise based on their reach or their following, not their actions. With social media, it's really easy to hide behind a persona, and no one really know who you really are. In politics, both sides are considered wise, or they consider their leaders wise based on their ability to win elections or influence people, regardless of whether their actions reflect gentleness or good conduct. So how do you know what wisdom is and who is wise? Well, James says, by their good conduct, by their works done in the gentleness that wisdom brings. Gentleness. It's one of the fruit of the Spirit. It's all about the fruit. And James goes on to bring some contrast here. Verse 14. "But if you have bitter jealousy and selfishness in your hearts, do not boast and tell lies against the truth. Such wisdom does not come from above, but is earthly, natural, demonic." That's pretty tough stuff. There is rampant jealousy and selfishness in our world today that's fueled by constant comparison on social media platforms, in the news. And we have to be careful that we don't envy someone's highlight reel, because that bitterness and jealousy and selfishness leads to boasting against the truth, because you can't have the truth with jealousy and selfishness. There's great pressure in our society to attain certain status symbols. And the antidote for that is contentment that only comes through Jesus. There is such damage caused by spreading false information or gossip. And that's often driven by jealousy or selfishness. How do we know that we're not gossiping? How do we know that we're not spreading the wrong thing? Well, one question I try to ask myself, is this my story to tell? And if it's about someone else and they're not in the conversation, that's not my story to tell. And the scary part of this is that if there's bitter jealousy and selfishness and boasting against the truth, it's not just natural and it's not just foolishness. James says it's demonic. That is pretty scary stuff, right? Let's go on. Verse 16. For where there is jealousy and selfishness, there is disorder and every evil practice. Well, where do you see disorder and jealousy and selfishness? Many times we talk about that in our culture today, about toxic relationships. Where there is always drama, where there is chaos, where there is selfishness. It's not wise to be a part of that. And that lack of wisdom spreads like wildfire, and it causes destruction all around. And where does it come from? Well, remember demonic from the last verse? You see, things that are demonic are not always the spinning head and weird voice and crazy eyes. Where you see jealousy, selfishness, disorder, drama, chaos, selfishness, that does not come from above. It's actually demonic in nature. But here's the difference. Verse 17. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, accommodating, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial, not hypocritical. If you want to find wisdom, look for these traits. Real relationships are full of these things, full of mercy and good fruit, gentle, accommodating, impartial, and not hypocritical. A real relationship is one where you don't have to walk on eggshells. That's the wisdom from above. And it's first pure, then peaceable, gentle, accommodating, full of mercy, impartial, and not hypocritical. I mean, that's the good fruit that we should be looking for. And most of the information that we get today has very little to do with any of those things. You can have all of the right information and still not have wisdom, because wisdom is peaceable, gentle, accommodating, full of mercy, and impartial. And anything less is hypocritical and not good fruit. And here's what that fruit looks like. Verse 18 of James 3. And the fruit that consists of righteousness is planted in peace among those who make peace. So the fruit of righteousness, and the whole context here is wisdom. And that wisdom is not just the information. Wisdom is actually applying the information in a godly way. And that fruit of righteousness is planted in peace among those who make peace. So that popular preacher you listen to, that author that you read, are they a peacemaker? If not, that's just information. That's not heavenly wisdom. And the information can be good, but without the fruit that consists of righteousness, it's not wisdom. It's just information. That politician or celebrity that you believe in, do they have these kinds a fruit and this kind of evidence in their life? Are they planting in peace? Are they making peace? Because anything less is the opposite of wisdom. And what is the opposite of wisdom? Well, just to be blunt, it's foolishness. And in the first chapter of Romans, Paul tells us what the end times are going to be like and how rampant sin is going to be. But he also says that in Romans 1:22, that professing themselves to be wise, they would become fools. If you are looking for wisdom, look for the fruit that consists of righteousness. Look for wisdom that is planted in peace. And where is that peace? It's among those who make peace. And what are those who make peace? Well, they are peacemakers. And Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." God's children are the wise ones. God's children are who know real wisdom. And you can know who they are by looking for peacemakers. There is a lot of good information in the world today. But information and intelligence and knowing all of the right things is meaningless unless you are a child of God. And God's children are known as peacemakers. So when you look for wisdom, don't just look for the right information. Don't just look for what agrees with what you think. Look for peace. Look for peacemakers. And this is so important that James warns us that anything less is actually demonic. There's a lot of information in the world today, but information is not wisdom. In fact, some of the newest technology that you may be aware of, it's called artificial intelligence. It is a lot of information, and it can seem wise, but actually, it's just random application, and there's no wisdom behind it. Because the only true wisdom comes from God and from God's Word. And when we apply that kind of wisdom, then we see the fruit of righteousness, and we become peacemakers. Matthew 5:9. We'll read it again to wrap up today. "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." If you're looking for wisdom today, you will find it among the peacemakers. Thank you so much for being a part of this All Together podcast. It's your Love First connection anytime, anywhere. If you have questions or comments, please, leave us a message or send a private message or an email. This is about you staying connected, and we so appreciate you. And we close everything by saying, remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.